Hello, our top story this hour. CBC News has learned that the civil war in Sierra Leone has claimed the life of one American journalist and has seriously injured a Canadian. The two journalists who work for the Associated Press were shot by a lone rebel soldier. American Miles Tierney is dead. Canadian Ian Stewart is seriously injured, and efforts are being made to get him out of the country. Meanwhile, thousands of civilians are fleeing the area.
She has explained to me, I don't know.
United Nations helicopters are ferrying as many people as possible from Freetown. Others are escaping on foot. The city is quickly running out of food and water. Electric power and telephone lines have been cut. The fighting has increased since rebels gained control of parts of the city. They're demanding Sierra Leone's president resign and that their leader be released from jail. The Department of Foreign Affairs in Ottawa says they've rescued 3 Canadians from Sierra Leone this morning, but there are still 7 Canadians in the country. Earlier, we spoke with André LeBlanc at Foreign Affairs. He says the department is doing all it can to ensure their safety.
We do not have a advisory that basically forces the evacuation. We have a system whereby when there are civil unrest in the country, where we get in touch with the Canadians, we ensure their safety, and then in this case we would have been in touch with them to advise them of the evacuation, that we would recommend that they evacuate. It's our understanding that a lot of Canadians that were residents in Sierra Leone did follow the initial advice to actually leave the country. And some of the Canadians, until very recently, were contacted and did not wish to leave Sierra Leone.
A dramatic show of support for Saddam Hussein today, first in Parliament, then on the streets of the Iraqi capital, Baghdad. Parliament voted to reject UN-imposed no-fly zones in northern and southern parts of the country. The MPs also condemned their neighbors Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. They allowed U.S. and British forces to use their bases during the bombing of Iraq, and in the streets today, on cue, a big demonstration. UN weapons inspectors have been kept out of Iraq since the bombing. In Washington, Republican senators still want to call witnesses in the impeachment trial of U.S. President Bill Clinton, and the name at the top of the witness list would be Monica Lewinsky. The trial resumes later this week, but so far, Democrats and Republicans haven't been able to agree on whether witnesses should be called in the trial.
As an old trial lawyer, you've got to humanize a case. They're putting the burden initially on the House managers to talk about this case. We didn't live through it. Monica Lewinsky, Betty Currie, Vernon Jordan lived through this. Their lives are impacted by this, and they need to hear from them. But I think of more significance to the senators than the ones I've talked to is that they want to see what conflicts exist in the testimony. Monica Lewinsky, there's conflict between what she has said and what the president has said, what she has said and what Betty Currie has said. How can the senators determine where the truth lies without looking them in the eye, face to face, listen to their demeanor, determining who is telling the truth?
I don't think Monica Lewinsky can add one iota of additional information. She has been deposed. All of those depositions are available to us. We can read the evidence just like the House did.
I've been skeptical about whether witnesses were necessary, as that we have 60,000 pages of sworn testimony. Monica Lewinsky, for instance, testified under oath more than 20 times before the independent counsel, and that will be part of our record.
I would prefer, from a timeliness point of view, not to have them, but if the House wants witnesses, to give me an opportunity where all this written testimony conflicts, to get to look in the face and hear cross-examination of people who are saying different things. I think that's necessary. Finally, the truth is unpleasant.
The next stage in the impeachment trial gets underway later this week in Washington. The winds have finally died down and people are cleaning up in the Canary Islands. The islands took a big beating this week. Hurricane-force winds and waves battered shorelines and left a trail of destruction. The usually balmy Canary Islands are a popular tourist destination. The 2 main resort islands were the hardest hit. Roads are blocked, cars and homes are damaged, and some harbor walls smashed to pieces. Several people were hurt in the storm, and many are still without electricity. Remember, you can get news all the time and program highlights on our internet website, newsworld.cbc.ca. And that's the news. I'm Noreen Burgett. Cuts is next.